Hello and welcome to the MJ Take Podcast. At last, the MJ Take Podcast is back here on patreon.com/SFE, but you are probably also listening to this on YouTube, as this will be a free episode of the MJ Take Podcast to give you guys an idea, to give you guys a look, a sneak peek at what the MJ Take Podcast looks like, what it consists of, and basically it's just me for an hour talking NFL and NBA, but in a little more relaxed state and a little more of a reserved state at times. I mean, I will go off at times, but this is my natural environment, I'd say. I like just turning on the microphone and talking for an hour, and that's what I'm going to do today. So, we're going to talk NFL today for most of this podcast, probably all of it. We'll see how this hour forms. And I want to recap the worst seasons in the NFL, the worst teams and their seasons in the NFL. The Cleveland Browns, maybe the worst season of all time, because, you know, everyone was complaining. Everyone in the comment section all year, MJ, make more videos on the Browns, on the Bears, on the Steelers, on everybody. Look, here's my thing, people. Okay, here's the honest thing. I watched the least amount of football this year than I've watched in over a decade. I just didn't have time for it. I just did not have time. I was so busy. For those of you that don't know, we can have this conversation now. This is my podcast, damn it. I'm currently in college. I go to Vanderbilt University. I study computer science, okay? And I'm a junior. And at this stage, okay, for any computer science major at any major university, this is the stage where you need to have your shit together, okay? Like, you need to have your shit together at this point. You got to be out hustling, looking for the internship after your junior year that will likely set up your career. That's where I was at. Okay, and I was talking to some big companies, and I ultimately landed an internship with Amazon, right? So things went well, which was good. But the struggle to get there was real. Every weekend, I had to either apply for a bunch of internships or actually interview for a bunch of internships, and it was stressful and it was tough. Doing that while also being in school, taking 18 credit hours at the time, and the classes were not easy. I was going through hell. But now I'm able to talk about whatever the hell I want to talk about. I have the time to do it. Let's do it. We're going to have weekly MJ Take podcasts on patreon.com/SFE. And I'm going to rejuvenate the SFE YouTube channel and the website and everything. And you're already seeing signs of that. Good. So with that said, let's go ahead and get started, and stick around because at the end of this video, I'm going to rant on the Titans a little bit more. Okay, yes, this is not a Titans channel, right? It's going to be much less of a Titans channel moving forward, but Jesus Christ, they did it again. I mean, they hired another bland white conservative guy that's going to go up there and do the same thing the last 4 white conservative white guys have done as head coach of this football team, and I'm tired of it, but we're going to talk about that later. For now, let's talk about the worst team ever. The Cleveland Browns. At least they're tied for the worst team ever. And look, the Detroit Lions, I almost said Pistons. The Detroit Lions, the 2008 Lions, okay, yeah, they were worse than this football team. Their point differential was much worse. I think over 100 points worse than this Cleveland Browns 2017 football team. But both teams went 0-16. They both share that reward. The worst record ever to be winless. Wow, what an achievement for this Cleveland Browns football team. We're going to talk about them for about 5 minutes for about every team. And look, let's start at the quarterback position. Let's start with DeShone Kizer. And y'all know, Browns fans, y'all know specifically, I liked DeShone Kizer heading into this season. I thought the Browns could develop him to being a franchise quarterback, but they just didn't. And I don't think he, frankly, is from what I've seen. Now, I do believe, and Jared Goff has shown us this, quarterbacks can be rehabilitated, right? You can bring a new head coach in with a new offensive system, and you can make things happen. Okay, fine. But the Browns refused to do that. Look, if it was me running things, I probably would have given DeShone Kizer one more shot. I would have said, Hugh Jackson stinks. Let's bring in someone different, and let's see what happens. But they didn't do that. Because they didn't do that now, I think they have to go quarterback in the upcoming draft. We'll talk about it a little bit more later. But DeShone Kizer, look, 11 touchdowns to 22 interceptions. Man, that's just bad, dude. Even for Jared Goff, rookie Jared Goff, man. I mean, that's bad. Now, it's not as bad as rookie Alex Smith, okay, who's still playing today. So I do believe this is salvageable. But the Browns are just at such a position of strength in this draft to where I think they'd be nuts to not take a quarterback. Look at the other significant things offensively. Okay, how about this? The return of Josh Gordon. Okay, so Josh Gordon, he returned, and he made a decent impact. I mean, this guy can still play. I mean, he's so talented, and he appears to actually have his head out of the weed bush. Okay, so that's good. Okay, so we like that. We can move forward knowing that this guy should still, be a good player for us. I believe he's under contract for next year as well, so that's not a problem either. Now, one thing I don't love, he's still caught under 50% of his targets, so I don't love that, but I put a little of that on Kaiser and on Hugh Jackson's system, which is just not working out in Cleveland. Look, here's the thing about head coaches in the NFL. Let me just say this really quick. There are guys like Ken Whisenhunt, like when you give him talent like Melvin Gordon, Phillip Rivers, and the great wide receivers in, the San Diego Chargers, Keenan Allen and company, they can make a good offense, but they're not able to adapt to not so great players. And that's an L. Like, I mean, that's a problem. That's something that you have to fix. Like, you can't just say, oh, okay, there's no talent, that's it. No, you're able to get something out of the players. You just have to adapt your scheme. Hugh Jackson's scheme, it can work. I mean, it works with better talent, but with talent like this, he doesn't adapt it to his players' strengths, and then they get in trouble. You know what I mean? And Deshaun Kaiser, I mean, he only completed 53% of his passes. I mean, are you kidding me? I mean, that's on Hugh Jackson. The running game, Isaiah Crowell, still doing his thing. He's an upcoming free agent. Would I re-sign him? I don't care. I probably wouldn't. I'd probably look to move on knowing that you can draft Saquon Barkley. And Duke Johnson is a good backup, but I think he is a backup, right? Some people argue he should be the starting running back. No, I think he's a backup. I think having him as a backup is something that you want. He's such a great receiving back. I think that's where you want him to be. If you started him, he'd be fine. I'm not saying he'd be a disaster, but I think you want him to be a backup. If he's a backup for you, that's his best spot. Defensively, Joe Schobert. Okay, this guy showed up for this Cleveland Browns football team. He was all over the place. He was making plays all the time. He and Christian Kirksey, a nice linebacker duo moving forward. They signed Jason McCourty. He did well for them, so you have to love that as well. Brian Body Calhoun, he stepped up. Look, this defense actually wasn't bad. It actually ended up being league average in terms of allowing yards. I think they're about 15th in yards allowed was this Cleveland Browns football team. So they're not a bad defense. The offense, though, it was too awful on a consistent basis, and Hugh Jackson did not put his team in position to win football games late. So when I look at the offseason for the Browns, look, my strategy moving forward, because we're keeping Hugh, which is stupid, we have to go to quarterback. Look, dog, you have the 1st and 4th overall pick. There are 6 quarterbacks that are likely to go in the 1st round this year. You would be nuts if we're going to have another conversation about the Browns not taking a quarterback 1st overall. I mean, dude, that has not worked out for you, dog. You passed on Carson Wentz. You passed on, even though I think he's going to have troubles in the future, you passed on Deshaun Watson. And you just can't keep passing on these top guys. You got to take one of the top and see what happens. You haven't done it in a while. Like, I know it didn't work with Tim Couch. I understand that. Things have changed. Look at the past number 1 quarterbacks overall. Jameis Winston, Jared Goff. They're actually, at worst, they're going to be pretty good. The times of Jamarcus Russell, they're over, man. It's really hard to find a quarterback bust at 1st overall now. It's just so hard. At the top of the draft, you're just not going to find them. Even a guy like Jared Goff that looks awful initially, even he can turn it around. You draft a quarterback at the top of the draft. You have your pick of the litter. Okay, Josh Rosen doesn't want to go to you. You can take him anyway. You find the best quarterback in this draft and you take him to me, because that's the only way this Hugh Jackson thing is going to work out. He just needs better talent. His system will work with better talent because he just doesn't know how to adapt to players. So if it was me, okay, if that was the GM or the owner, I would have fired him. I still would consider taking a quarterback, honestly, but I may have passed on one. It just depends how much I like the quarterbacks, right? So it would have been a discussion, let me say that. And then also with that other pick, just take the best player available. Look at Saquon Barkley. Look at Bradley Chubb. Look at Minkah Fitzpatrick. Okay, so that's the Cleveland Browns. It was a horrible season for you. I predicted what? I predicted like 4-12 for them. Dear God. Mid-season, I predicted 1-15. Yeah, they didn't meet either of those marks. dear God. But I guess you can say things are looking up in Cleveland because their roster did take a step up. I mean, you can say that despite winning one less game, and that's all on the head coach. What a disastrous head coach and situation in Cleveland. 0-16 for a good reason. We move on to the next football team, the New York Football Giants, who also had an awful, disastrous 2017. I'd say the worst 2017 relative to expectations in the entire NFL. This was bad, people. I mean, the people in New York should be ashamed, and most of them are now gone. Okay, right? I mean, they got rid of their head coach, Ben McAdoo Head, okay, as some of you people called him, and for good reason. I mean, this guy was a joke, okay? And now we have some decisions to make. So I'm not going to spend too much time recapping the season. I really want to talk about the future for this football team. But just to recap the season, things were disasters from the beginning. You couldn't score points. You couldn't protect the quarterback. You couldn't run the ball. Paul Perkins, who I thought, one of my bold predictions was, hey, he's going to run for 1,000 yards. He couldn't do shit, okay? It was a damn disaster. Okay, you couldn't run nothing. Orleans Darkwa ended up doing something later. By then it was too late, and then the injuries kicked in. Odell Beckham, oh my God, Brandon Marshall, even though he wasn't playing great, that also hurt. And things just really took a horrible turn for this football team, and it was disastrous, man. I mean, the worst loss I say was to the LA Rams, 51-17. After that game, you just had to feel like, man, we just can't get it done, because early in the season, they were competing, right? They had lost their first 2 games. They weren't close in those games, but then they lost to the Eagles by 3. They lost to the Bucs by 2. They lost to the Chargers by 5. Then they beat the Broncos. You're like, maybe they can salvage this season, but by that 51-17 victory but that the LA Rams had over them, you knew that season was over for the New York Giants. So, look at the players, what they do this year. Is there anything really of note here? Again, you were impressed by Orleans Darkwa. I believe he's an upcoming free agent. There's a decision to be made there. I might keep him, actually, but still draft a running back in the 2nd or 3rd round. I think that would be my move, because at least you find a running back that can get over 4 yards a carry consistently in New York. And that's a big deal, because Paul Perkins could do none of that. 2.2. Oh, my God. Oh, 2.2 yards per carry for Paul Perkins in this 2017 campaign. Yeah, I cannot believe I ever said this guy's going to pass 1,000 yards rushing this season. Let's just forget I ever said anything that has anything to do with that. Wayne Gallman even shows some promise for this football team moving forward. So you can let go of Orleans Darkwa, but to me, I still want to draft a running back. I think this running back class is pretty loaded. I think you can find a Kareem Hunt in the 2nd or 3rd round, and you have to give it a shot, right? Just get him into camp and let's see what they can do. But you definitely have to improve this offensive line, man. Eric Flowers, man, he either has to move to right tackle or he's got to go. You look at Justin Pugh, he's an upcoming free agent. There's a decision to be made there. One thing that you had to like for this team, though, offensively, Evan Ingram, man, this guy can play. Now, he has his issues. He has some drops. He caught about 58% of his targets, which is decent. I'm fine with that number. And he had 6 touchdowns. So we have a tight end. And I always said, dude, I had Evan Ingram as my number 1 tight end. People had David Njoku or O.J. Howard. Actually, no, I had O.J. Howard as my number 1. But I had Evan Ingram as my number 2. I thought he was better than David Njoku, and I thought you saw that this season. In fact, he was the best tight end. He was better than O.J. Howard. Now, O.J. Howard is behind Cameron Braid in Tampa Bay, so we'll see what happens in the future. But for right now, you have to believe that, hey, maybe we got the best tight end in that draft class. So there is a nice piece here in Evan Ingram. Obviously, when Odell Beckham comes back, he's going to be good. You know, we can't say this guy's injury prone yet. This was a horrible injury that he had, but other than this injury, he hasn't been injured in his NFL career, so we like that. Defensively, not too much to say here. Landon Collins is still great. You didn't love a lot of these performances. You know, some of these players definitely let you down, but I think things just took such a horrible turn, you can't really say much. So looking forward, you know, to me, look, I like Eli. I thought he played fine this season, but I think he got to move on at this point, man. He's old. He's, 37 years old at this point. To me, you're probably not going to build together a championship roster within the next 2 years. I mean, and not even in 2 years, within 2 years, because by then I think he's going to be done, right? So you have to build it within 2 years, and then you have to hope you can get to the playoffs, and he's going to be good enough to get you to the Super Bowl. To me, this is the perfect opportunity to pick at the top of the draft. You probably won't be picking here again anytime soon, because when your boys, Odell Beckham and Sterling Shepard, come back healthy and everything, this Giants team should at least be a 6-win team moving forward. This is your opportunity to get a quarterback and to reset a bit. You know, a bit of a reset. I don't think there's a total reset that has to happen in New York. You get a new quarterback in here, a new running back in here, new offensive lineman. I think this team could be a playoff team as soon as next year. I mean, like, you look at the LA Rams, right? They had a disastrous 2016 season, but they had their quarterback improvement in Jared Goff, and their defense played a lot better the year after. They were in the playoffs. I can see the Giants having that kind of year next year, honestly, especially now that you have Pat Shurmur coming to town. I thought that was a good hire. So the move to me is move on from Eli Manning. Either trade or release him. Identify a top 2 quarterback in this draft class, and then take him. Like, that's the move to me. Okay, take a quarterback in this draft class with your number 2 overall pick and move forward with a new quarterback, with a new face of the New York Giants. Now, I will tell you this, though. Be careful with Josh Rosen, because, again, I have a team source out of the NFC West, a team scout, who is telling me that there are serious character concerns with Josh Rosen, that he cares about making money, and that concerns me, especially going to be in New York. That has problems with me, man. I mean, there are players that have that kind of mentality and they do fine. Like Albert Hainsworth was doing fine with that mentality for a number of years, but it just rubs me the wrong way, and I feel like ultimately that's going to come back to bite him in the butt. Like, I just have a problem with that, but I don't care if it's Rosen, Darnold, whoever. Just identify one and take them. And I'll tell you who I think they should take moving forward when I evaluate more of the quarterbacks in this draft class. So that's the book on the New York Giants. We move on now to the Indianapolis Colts. And look, we get it. Look, Andrew Luck was injured this year, and for the entire year. I mean, we came into this year, we didn't think it was going to be for the entire damn year. Like, I was thinking, okay, he's going to be out. It's going to, suck for the Colts for like 6 weeks. But my God, he missed the entire year, and you traded for Jacoby Brissett, and he showed some promise, but the season was lost. So we'll start with Brissett, and he's fine. I don't think you want to make him your starting quarterback. Like, some teams are going to have that conversation. Should we trade with the Colts for Jacoby Brissett? If the Colts are willing to trade him, I mean, maybe if they're concerned about Luck long term, they'll keep Brissett, and I think that they will ultimately. But, to me, he's okay. But I don't think he's a Super Bowl winning guy. I don't see that. Maybe he could have like a Case Keenum season in the future. I won't discount that, but just quite not good enough for me, right? If this is my franchise quarterback, I'm not feeling good about my franchise quarterback or my franchise in general. Frank Gore, look, I think he's about done at this point. He didn't have a horrible season, but I think he's about done. I think Marlon Mack was a bit of a disappointment, but he still showed promise, so I'm interested to see what's going to happen. Especially, hey, let's give this guy a better offensive line, right? Robert Turin didn't do anything. 2.3 yards per carry. I mean, dear God. Look at the wide receivers. T.Y. Hilton, under 1,000 yards, but I still think he's very good. Brissett did not target him enough for my liking. I thought he definitely should have targeted him more, but you look at T.Y. Hilton, even getting 900 receiving yards when Jacoby Brissett only had 3,000 passing yards, that's almost a third of your quarterback's production going to you. Okay, so this is still a good season overall for T.Y. Hilton. He did the most with what he could with the targets he was being given. And still, I felt he could have got more because the Colts had nothing else, right? I mean, who are you going to target on the Colts? Chester Rogers? I mean, Jesus. There should have been a little more deep action with T.Y. Hilton to me, but whatever, this season was lost from the beginning. Jack Doyle still made plays, 690 receiving yards, so that was a decent year for him. Dante Moncrief, I'm almost done with this guy. He can't stay healthy. When he's on the field, he's actually decent, but he just can't stay healthy, man. I'm almost done with him. Chester Rogers did almost nothing. Offensive line, yeah, they had their struggles, man. I mean, they need to make improvements on this offensive line. They need to invest in this offensive line, but we've been saying this. We've been talking about this for a number of years when it comes to this Indianapolis Colts team, and they refuse to do it. Now, they drafted Ryan Kelly in the first round of, like, the 2016 NFL draft, and he's done decent for them. Okay, and I look at that pick, and I'm like, okay, make more picks like that. Hey, don't be afraid to go out and draft some offensive linemen in the top of the second round this year, top of the third, even to invest some money in free agency. I know you just paid Andrew Luck a lot of money, but, I think you can go out and spend some more money on the offensive line so that ultimately Andrew Luck can stay healthy for your football team and lead your football team back to the playoffs. So, I mean, this Colts team, it was not great this year. Defensively, we can see Antonio Morrison. Okay, that was one good thing. A guy that you drafted a couple years ago out of Florida. I remember this guy. I think I gave you guys an A for drafting him. Nice to see that he led the team in tackles. But Vontae Davis, he struggled this year. You wonder, is he ever going to go back to being the dominant cornerback that he used to be? That's a concern right there. You drafted Quincy Wilson. Didn't play too much from what I'm seeing. Did have 6 passes defended, so I like that, and an interception as well. Didn't really see much of him whenever I watched the Colts, but you definitely saw Malik Hooker, though. He was making plays. Malik Hooker was making plays every time I watched the Colts this year, so I like that moving forward for the Colts. But, there are definitely improvements to be made here. But you still have Jabal Shear, 5.5 sacks this year. He's never going to get you 10 plus, but this was a decent year for him. But you need a new edge rusher. You drafted one in the 3rd round last year. What did he do? Let me see real quick. I don't even see him registering on the stat sheet. What was Terrell Basham? Only 7 tackles, 2 sacks for Terrell Basham out of Ohio. So this wasn't a great year for him. Hopefully he can improve in the future. We'll see what happens there. We look at the Colts moving forward. You're picking 3rd overall in the draft. The move to me is either Saquon Barkley or Bradley Chubb. I don't care which one you take. Just take whichever one you think is better. I don't care which one it is. You can identify that guy. I don't really care. Or Minkah Fitzpatrick, too. You can take Minkah, Bradley Chubb, or Saquon Barkley. Obviously, do not take a quarterback unless, hey, maybe there's conversations going on in Indianapolis, and they know more than I know, and Andrew Luck will not be able to play, and that's it, and he's done. Maybe. But I haven't heard that, so I'm not going to say that. Come on. The move to me is either Bradley Chubb or Saquon Barkley or Minkah Fitzpatrick. That is the move to me. Do not go into next year with Barkevious Mingo starting, okay, or Terrell Basham. And maybe Basham improves. I'll look out for Basham to improve. I'll look out for that. But for now, to me, Barkley, Chubb, or Fitzpatrick. We move on to the next football team. We have to discuss the one that's picking. No, they're not even picking 4th overall, the Houston Texans. Okay, Texans fans, this is when we're going to have problems. I think no fan base hates me more. And there are some fan bases that hate me, man. It's ridiculous. I think no fan base hates me more than the Houston Texans because we just fundamentally disagree on their quarterback, Deshaun Watson. And it doesn't hurt that I'm a Tennessee Titans fan as well. Okay, so here's the deal. Deshaun Watson this year played very, very well in the games that he played. He played about 9 games, put up 19 touchdowns to 8 interceptions, appeared to be on the trajectory of winning Rookie of the Year. 103 passer rating, was playing great, running great. He killed my team, put up 57 points on the Tennessee Titans. He looked great. I'm sorry, I'm not sold yet. I'm just not, people. Because, okay, you have to look at why I didn't like him in the first place. Is because I legitimately, as did everyone else, sit down for a number of hours. In my case, I think it was 6 to 8 hours. And just watch Deshaun Watson college tape. And it just wasn't good. Now, when I turn on his Houston Texans tape, it's much better, but I still see things that concern me. And in the offseason, I'm going to make a Deshaun Watson video talking about that on film because talking about it over a podcast is not going to do much for you. Let me just say, everyone's assuming when he comes back, he's going to be as great and things are going to be great. And I'm saying, hold on. Number one, are we sure this guy is ever going to be healthy consistently? This is his 2nd torn ACL. Okay, he's now, 23, 24 years old, and that's a fact? That's scary, dog. If you're not thinking RG3 when it comes to this guy, you're missing out, because that's what is screaming to me. It's what's screaming to everybody right now, okay? It has to scare you, dog. And moreover than that, I just want to see if he can keep it up, because his play in the NFL did not resemble his play in college, and maybe that's because, I don't know, when he went to the NFL, he got better coaching, he improved. Okay, let's see if that sustains, because RG3 had a great rookie year, and then after that, he fell off, man. And I have a fear that it's going to be the same thing for Deshaun Watson, or he'll just never stay healthy, because 2nd torn ACL at this point scares the hell out of me. It scares the hell out of me. So, Tom Savage ended up playing awful, of course. TJ Yates, same thing. Right? The quarterback situation was nothing after that. Running back situation, Lamar Miller, he struggled. 3.7 yards per carry this year for Lamar Miller. Now, the offensive line for the Texans wasn't fantastic. They traded Dwayne Brown for reasons that I really don't understand. I mean, I know they want another draft pick, because now they don't have a first round draft pick this year. They would have picked 4th overall, which would have been really, really nice for them. They could have added a supreme talent. Now they don't even have that option. Maybe for good reason if Deshaun Watson proves to be a franchise quarterback. But that's the truth right now. So, Lamar Miller, he's your running back moving forward. But we do have Dante Foreman behind him, who got 4.2 yards per carry. Now, he got injured as well. In the future, I'm looking to Foreman to lead this running back room for the Houston Texans, and I think for good reason. Look at the wide receivers. DeAndre Hopkins, he returned to full form. I mean, he was fantastic. I mean, yeah, he solidified himself as, bro, I'm a top 5 wide receiver in the NFL, period. Okay, and give me a quarterback and y'all are in trouble. 13 receiving touchdowns. But, here's the interesting thing, though. I do want to say this, too. I have a problem with this philosophy that he just needs a quarterback, though, because he did play very well, though, after Deshaun Watson got hurt. So I think last year, at times, I think he wasn't trying as hard as he was this year, or the offensive game plan didn't target him enough as well, right? That was also a problem. So I think it's a combination of the two. I don't think it's just, the excuse is totally, 100% he just needs quarterback play. I think there's a little more than that, because he did have great games for me, and he won me a fantasy championship late in the year. Okay, and that was without Deshaun Watson. Okay, so either he learned how to play without great quarterback play and he didn't know last year, or last year maybe he didn't try as hard or they didn't, game plan for him enough. I think there's more there. All right, we move on to Will Fuller, who couldn't stay healthy. That was unfortunate. And the offensive line for the Texans moving forward, I mean, they need help. I don't understand why they traded Dwayne Brown. I mean, he didn't play great, actually, for the Seahawks. I mean, that is true. And I think he ended up getting injured again. But you look at this Texas offensive line. Xavier Su'a-Filo's been a disappointment. Brino Giacomini, who you signed from the Jets, has always been bad. I don't know why anyone keeps signing this guy. Julian Davenport is a rookie. Hopefully he can improve, because in the little play he had, he wasn't impressive. I think the center for the Texans, Greg Manx, had a regression this year. So, offense is in a little bit of turmoil. That's why I'm telling everybody, everyone's assuming when Deshaun Watson comes back, everything's going to be great. I don't know, man. With this offensive line, let's see what's going to happen with this football team moving forward. But I think a good thing for you is you just lost your defensive coordinator, Mike Vrabel, who I don't think is very good. Okay, and Romeo Crennel, hopefully he can go back to doing defensive coordinator duties, because Mike Vrabel, for my credit, stunk. Okay, and I understand all these injuries happen defensively. We'll talk about the defense for a second. Look, I understand J.J. Watt got hurt, McKinney got hurt, and it sucked. But at the same time, I think Vrabel stunk, and I think that was a big reason as to why the Texans had their struggles. But Romeo Crennel is coming back. Bill O'Brien has now confirmed. Moving forward, you have no draft pick in the first round, which sucks. Second round, I'm looking to upgrade the offensive line. I know the defense struggled this year. I know they were the worst defense in terms of points allowed, but I think it just had to do with Mike Vrabel and the injuries. Okay, I mean, I think your defense is fine. I mean, it definitely has its problems. Like, I would like to have a safety that, you guys could draft and could come in and be great, and I'd like to have a new, let's say, defensive end opposite of J.J. Watt, and I'd like to draft maybe a new cornerback as well. But look, to me, I think the offensive line just needs so much work. I would be fine if they spent the first 2 picks on offensive linemen in Houston. I mean, I think it's a big problem moving forward. I think Texas fans know and understand that. So to me, that's the move this offseason for the Houston Texans. We got to upgrade this offensive line. All right, move on to the Denver Broncos now, right? The Denver Broncos, whom I had going, I want to say 9-7, maybe 10-6. And they disappointed this season, I would say. They were the second most disappointing team this season, behind the Giants. Maybe the third, actually, behind the Bucs, whom we will talk about later. So let's start with the quarterback situation, as we always do. And it is a situation in Denver, as Trevor Siemian struggled this year, 12 touchdowns to 14 interceptions. And this stat line was actually very similar to Marcus Mariota, but Siemian was not even close to being the winner Marcus Mariota was. I mean, let's just call it what it is. Simeon's not good, and I wanted to defend him, and I did defend him, coming into this year saying, guys, Simeon's not that bad. I think he can be a quarterback for the Broncos. I think he can improve. He's young. He was drafted in the 7th round. Give him time, and he just did not play well. You signed Brock Osweiler, who came in and ended up doing a decent job for your football team. I mean, he won some games, I think maybe 1 or 2 games, and Only had 5 touchdowns to 5 interceptions, but overall, played decent, I guess, but obviously he's not the answer. And Paxton Lynch, I mean, let's call it what it is, man. I think that boy's a bust. If he can't compete in the quarterback room, in practice, in training camp, and everything at this point to get on the field, it's concerning. If he doesn't start by next year, he's officially a bust. But right now, I said before the year, I said the B and the U were loaded in the word bust. Right now, the B, the U, and the S are loaded. He's going to get that T if he's not starting at the beginning of next year. Running situation, CJ Anderson is still all right to me. You signed Jamal Charles. He was old. He was never going to make an impact. Devontae Booker, okay. The running situation is okay. It's just not good enough when your quarterback situation is bad, right? If you had Peyton Manning, this would be fine, right? It'd even be better because Peyton Manning makes running backs better. It's incredible. But, yeah, running situation, to me, it's fine. Wide receiver is very intriguing moving forward because there are rumors the Broncos could trade Demaryius Thomas or release Emmanuel Sanders. And are you sure you want to do that? Because we still have a situation where there are no more wide receivers. Like, there are no other wide receivers in this Broncos room other than them. Like this Benny Fowler and Cody Latimer. I mean, they're not good guys. They're complete depth guys. You don't want them to get more targets than they're getting right now. You're dedicating a lot of money to these two. I understand that, but I think that they're decent. I think, can you actually, I challenge you, go find a third wide receiver. I know you drafted D'Angelo Henderson, but he didn't play. So go get another, try again. Try to get another third wide receiver in here, and then hope that Thomas and Sanders should stay healthy. And they normally do. Sanders struggled with injuries this year, but he normally stays healthy. I would stick with these two moving forward for at least one more season. Demaryius Thomas is still quite good. If you want to trade him to the Tennessee Titans, dog, I'm going to take him. I'm going to take Demaryius Thomas. Please, trade him to our asses. We'll use him, okay? Marcus Mariota will use Demaryius Thomas. I guarantee you that. Defensively, they had a bit of a down year for them. They still weren't that bad. In fact, I think they even finished third in yards allowed, but in terms of points allowed, they're about league average, around 16, 17. So you didn't love that. But, I think Vance Joseph stinks. And I said that when you guys hired him. I essentially said that I didn't understand the coaching hire. Vance Joseph was a guy that was a one-year defensive coordinator for Miami, for the Miami Dolphins in 2016, and his defense wasn't good. They ranked about 20th, 26th in points allowed. It didn't make sense to hire him to me, and you did anyway. Okay, so that was an L. And then you come in this year, and he causes the team to regress. I mean, it's pretty much on him to me. I mean, the quarterback situation did not help. I understand that. But things were really lost for this football team. I mean, the Broncos were looking so bad in the middle of the year. And I look at Vance Joseph as the reason why. I mean, he was just bad. I mean, he was just making bad decisions. He was lost. He ended up firing his special teams coach. I didn't think for good reason. He didn't change his offense coordinator, didn't change his defense coordinator. Actually, no, he did change his offense coordinator in the middle of the year, but yeah, at that point, things were lost, and I blame him. So hopefully he can improve, because I think that's what you need. I mean, you do need a player here and a player there, and you need to fix your quarterback situation. I understand that. But at the same time, Vance Joseph, to me, is a problem. I'm not always down for the one-year fire, but in this case, I think it was kind of justified, and they should have done it. They didn't, so we'll see what happens next year. But I know Bronco fans are looking at Kyle Shanahan and thinking, and deservedly so, what could have been. We move on to the next team. Oh, real quick on the Broncos, one more thing for them. What should they do in the offseason? Okay, 5th overall pick. Take a quarterback, man. I mean, it's the strategy, man. It's the move, okay? It's lit, right? That's the thing you got to do this year. You got to draft a quarterback if you need one in the first round, and dear God, the Broncos need one. I'm looking at Baker Mayfield, and so are they, right? John Elway requested Baker Mayfield at the Senior Bowl. I'm not sure if they're going to get him yet. We're going to find out soon, I believe. But I think he's actually decent, and I would not be opposed to the Broncos making that selection. Let's move on now to the New York Jets, who, hey, I know they're the 6th worst team in the NFL, but man, they overwhelmed to me. I was impressed with the job overall that Todd Bowles and company did. But now they go out and they fire their offense coordinator, John Morton. And look, I decided to listen to Jets fans on this. And, hopefully there are some Jets fans that will comment on this video. Jets fans were telling me that John Morton was a conservative play caller and he made some bad play calls late in the year, and you attributed him as the reason why you lost your last 4 games, and sure. But, I mean, man, this was a team that we were looking at and saying they may go 0-16. And ultimately, they went 5-11, and I think it was a decent year for them because, dude, the roster is still booty. You know, the fact that they were able to get Robbie Anderson to be so good, the fact they were able to get Josh McCown to play decently well, I think that was a significant victory for this coaching staff and ultimately for this football team. This was not a bad year for the Jets for me, but they still have to improve this roster. Okay, I mean, there are improvements that need to be made. So you look offensively again, Josh McCown, he played decently well this year for the New York Jets, man. And he continues to do this. I remember when he went to Cleveland, they still lost with him, but he did a better job than what's been done there recently. And he went here 18 touchdowns to 9 interceptions. But here's the problem with the Jets, though. Even though he did fine, can y'all stop turning to the worst quarterbacks in the galaxy and hoping you can turn them into something decent? And you're doing a decent job at it, but just stop it. Like, you went down the road of Ryan Fitzpatrick, and now you went down the road of Josh McCown. Why can't you just go down a better road? Okay, like, just stop trying to do these reclamation projects. You're doing a decent job at it, but if you go into next year with Josh McCown, again, assuming he doesn't retire, like Ryan Fitzpatrick, he's going to have a bad second year with you. I guarantee you that. I'll tell you that right now. So I'm looking out for that. But he had 18 touchdowns to 9 interceptions. Bryce Petty stinks. I mean, oh my God. You people think I'm kidding. He's the worst ever. I'm not, dude. People, he's awful. Bryce Petty stinks. He's the worst quarterback I've ever seen. He's worse than Jamarcus Russell. He is. Today, in this season, 1 touchdown, 3 interceptions, stinkage. 55 passer rating, awful stinkage crap, Ola. I mean, there are craps in the toilet, I think, that could play better than Bryce Petty. 55 pass rating for this season, right? Seasons prior, okay, he's had slightly better, but still awful statistical performances. Last season, 60 passer rating. So now we have not only 1 year, we have 2 years now that we can look at as evidence. We have 1 year of a 60 passer rating, another of a 55 passer ratings, and he has played in 10 games at this point. That is not a small sample size. That is not a sample size that can trick you, that can fool you, that can make you believe something that is not true. No. By 10 games played, 2 seasons, we get it. And this guy has a career passer rating of 57. He has 4 touchdowns to 10 interceptions in 10 games. He has a 53% completion percentage. He stinks, people. He's the worst ever. Okay, I need to make a video specifically talking about Bryce Petty and how much he stinks. He stinks. Okay, so the running back situation, Bilal Powell continues to run well. I like him moving forward. Matt Forte is done. Can't stay healthy. He's old. Move on. That's fine. Elijah McGuire shows some things. I think he's a backup. I'm fine with Powell and McGuire moving forward. Wide receivers, Robbie Anderson played so well this year for the Jets overall. I mean, he still has some improvements to make, but you have to like his performance to me. You traded for Jermaine Kearse. Good. He played well for your football team this year. You had to like what you saw there. Austin Seferian-Jenkins, he shows some promise, so maybe he could do something in the future. 357 receiving yards isn't the most impressive thing you've ever heard, but I'm looking out for him in the future. Okay, fine. I still might look to draft a tight end, though, or sign one, but that's just me. Defensively, how about Jamal Adams, his rookie year? Not the most prolific, not the most, surprising or shocking, but I thought he played well. I thought he was a solid player for sure. Demario Davis, he stepped it up again. He had a nice reclamation year, I would say. You still like Leonard Williams down below. Muhammad Wilkerson, I mean, maybe they're going to move on now at this point. We're looking out for that. Steve McClendon, he played well. The defense stepped it up at times this year for sure. So yeah, it's like that. Morris Claiborne, we get at this point. He's not that good. I don't know why they really signed him and expected him to be a number 1 corner. That was just stupid. But they were the Jets, right? We thought they were tanking, and they did a kind of bad job. They still did a good enough job. They're going to get a quarterback if they really want one, but they could have done a better job if you really wanted to tank. So moving forward, they're picking 6th overall. And again, if you want a quarterback, fine, take one. You could also seek to get a free agent quarterback like an Alex Smith. Maybe he's going to be released, so you could pick him up. Maybe a Sam Bradford, maybe a Teddy Bridgewater. But look, I'm sick of these veterans, coming through New York, dog. You haven't drafted a quarterback high, okay, since Mark Sanchez. Let's try it again. I'm tired of you drafted Geno in the second. You drafted Bryce Petty in like the fifth or something, or maybe the third. Just go high, go all out. Let's find out what happens. Let's give it a shot. I think you need a young face in New York. Enough of these veterans. Let's go young. You have a pretty young team. The good parts of your team are young, okay? Like, for the most part, you have your Jamal Adams, your Leonard Williams, Marcus May shows some potential, right? Robbie Anderson's young. We want a team that can grow. I don't want an Alex Smith to come in here and lead us to the playoffs for 1 year. I don't think that's going to help you long term. Long term Super Bowl aspirations, get you a young cat. That's what I would do if I was the New York Jets. That is the move to me. And we move on to the next team, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. That, to me, were the second most disappointing team in the entire NFL this year. Let's start at the top, the quarterback position yet again, where Jameis Winston, who I had over Marcus Mariota, is starting to make this more and more questionable. Now, I understand Jameis Winston was injured this year, and his stats were better than Marcus Mariota, but it sucks right now when you see Marcus Mariota in the playoffs and Jameis Winston is far from it, okay? 5-11, the Bucs were far from the playoffs this season. But I still like him, man. I mean, 19 touchdowns, 11 interceptions is good. At times, though, I wish he would make better throws to win football games. I think he's not a great fourth quarter quarterback anymore like he was in college. I think he can improve in the fourth quarter, very much so. He was clutch against the Saints. Okay, so I like that in the last game of the season. But in other games, I thought he struggled. Especially like the Green Bay Packers game. You got to close that out, dog. He had a good statistical game there, but I thought he himself should have closed that game out definitely, and he wasn't able to do so. So I think there's definitely still improving Jameis Winston can make. And also the game against the Patriots. Dude, stop relying on your kicker. Just go down the field and get a touchdown in the end zone and win this football game. So I think he can still improve, but I like him moving forward. I still say he's good. I like him. I think he's good. Running back situation, it's bad. I think you have to obliterate it. I'm tired of Peyton Barber. Like, we know he can play. He's not awful, but I'm just tired of Peyton Barber, Doug Martin, Jaquiz Rodgers, and Charles Sims. Like, I'm tired of them. I'm tired of them. I'm tired of this Bucs running back room. I want to obliterate it. I want it obliterated. I want young guys in here. I want old guys in here. I want a different running back room at Tampa Bay because they're all way too inconsistent, not only on a week-to-week basis, but on a year-to-year basis. It's ridiculous. They're liable for suspensions. I'm really talking about Doug Martin right now. They're liable for suspensions and just down years and fumbles. I'm tired of them. It's time to move on from all these running backs to me. If you want to keep Rodgers as a receiving back or Sims as a receiving back, that's fine. But I think it's time to move on from these clowns. I think they're all clowns, honestly. Every single one of them at this point. Wide receivers, Mike Evans continues to make plays, continues to do a thing. He's a top 10 wide receiver. Top 5, yeah. But DeAndre Hopkins definitely passed him up this year. He's in the conversation. If you want to put him top 5, that's fine. But let's see. Let's see moving forward. Defensively, it's disappointing right now, this Bucs defense. And not really for good reason. Like, they do lack talent. Like, I understand that. Like, they obviously need a corner. They obviously need a safety or two. But look at Levante David, Quan Alexander, Jared McCoy. You signed Chris Baker. This defense should have been better than what it was this season. And I'm not really sure why, because you do have Mike Smith, former head coach, as your defensive coordinator. There was no reason for this defense to be as bad as it was this year. And yet it was just straight up bad. This Bucs defense was bad this year. They got to add to this defensive front. I think they need a defensive tackle. I think they need another defensive end because Noah Spence didn't do anything this year. I think they need a corner or two. I think they need a free safety or two, or a strong safety or two. There are improvements to be made personnel-wise, coaching-wise, maybe two. Mike Smith, give him another year. But if they struggle again next year, maybe look to move on. But ultimately, what you definitely should have done, oh my God, you should have moved on from Dirk Cutter as your head coach. Look, if you have this kind of regression, you got to point the finger at somebody. Now, you can point at Jameis Winston's injury, but look, this team is going to disappoint. I think they would have won maybe one more game with Jameis Winston. I mean, hell, maybe even one less, because Ryan Fitzpatrick came in and he played decently well, and he won a game that I'm not sure Jameis Winston would have won. Okay, so I'm saying this was a disappointing team. We got to point the finger at somebody, and I would have pointed it straight at Dirk Cutter, who to me is an unimaginative leader. I don't think anyone really buys into him. I don't think the players really love playing for him, that they get motivated by this guy. And he's not even that smart. If you're some sort of genius who the players don't really identify with or relate to, it's okay, because you're just so much of a genius to where you're going to put them in the best position to succeed anyway, and it'll be fine. If you're like Dirk Cutter, to where you're not the most innovative and creative offensive mind, and you're kind of boring, honestly, the players aren't going to buy into it. And that's what I'm saying. I think next year is going to be just as disappointing. Right now we'll see what happens. We have a long way to go. But with Dirk Cutter, I'm just not buying them. And what sucks right now, if you think the Raiders could have got John Gruden back, guess what you could have done? I mean, hey, honestly, I think you could have got it. I think he could have got him back. I'm not sure how much he loves Jameis Winston. Maybe he prefers Derek Carr to Jameis Winston. I can buy that. But maybe he could have been in the conversation. I would have done a phone call. Let me say that. Moving forward, you're picking 7th overall. The move to me, Minkah Fitzpatrick, if he falls. Bradley Chubb, if he falls. One of them probably will. Let's say one of them don't. Whoever you like, I don't really care. If you like Arnie Key, take him. If you like defensive end, put his name here, insert name here, fine. Right? I don't really care. Just identify to me a defensive talent and take him. I would also consider guard, Quentin Nelson, guard out of Notre Dame, right? I would also consider him. Ali Marpet and him could have a nice thing going forward. Unless if you like Evan Smith, but to me he's okay. I can seek to upgrade though. So whatever you do, it's fine. Just take talent. I think this Bucs team needs a little more talent, but I think they also need a change of head coach. But now it's too late for that because they decided to be idiots. So with that said, we move on to the next football team that we want to discuss. Oh, one more thing on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers that I also wanted to discuss before I move on. Yeah, Vernon Hargreaves, man. Look, I was trying to tell people about him. I never really bought into Vernon Hargreaves, and you're seeing that now to me. I don't think he's the cornerback for this team moving forward. Like, if you want to keep him as a number 2 or number 3 corner, I would be fine with that. Maybe even number 2. I always said I don't think he's even a great number 2 corner. I said definitely. I don't think he's a number 1 corner. When you drafted him number 11 overall, I gave you like a C+ or a B-. I'm like, yeah, this isn't a great pick. And you're seeing now, once Grimes retires or leaves or regresses, this cornerback room is going to be a problem for the Bucs moving forward. That has to concern you. I'm looking out for that, as are probably you. So look out for that moving forward for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. But overall, I would look forward to next year. Maybe Dirk Cutter can turn this team around. Maybe he can make something that I'm not seeing right now. But right now, Dirk Cutter concerns the hell out of me, and he probably should. Move on now to the Chicago Bears, who had an okay season relative to their expectations. I mean, I'm pretty sure they expected this. They went 5-11, one win better than the year before. Before the year, I projected 6-10, so they didn't meet my mark. But I predicted before the year, my bold prediction for this football team was that Mitchell Trubisky was going to start most of the games. Okay, that's a W for me. I also said they were going to fire Ryan Pace and John Fox. Now, they fired John Fox, but not Ryan Pace. And look, I understand. Ryan Pace could find the occasional talent, and a pretty good talent late. He was able to find Tariq Cohen. He was able to find Eddie Jackson. He was able to find Eddie Goldman, okay? But, man, this Bears team just ain't good. Like, y'all need to understand that. You do realize they don't have one wide receiver that's actually worth a damn long term. This guy's been the GM for how long? 3 or 4 years. And in 3 or 4 years, he has not been able to get one wide receiver worth a damn, and he actually had one, and he let him walk in Alshon Jeffrey. Don't tell me about no Josh Bellamy, about no Dontrell Inman, about whatever. You drafted a quarterback in Mitchell Trubisky, and you didn't give him one wide receiver that was worth a damn long term. And I understand, Kendall Wright played decent this season. Is he the answer long term? No. Okay, that's one microcosm that tells you I don't think Ryan Pace is very good. I think you can get just as good general managing, just as good drafting elsewhere. he does find the occasional Eddie Jackson. But they only won one more game, and it wasn't because of coaching. It was because ultimately their team wasn't that good enough on paper. So I'm not a big Ryan Pace fan. I thought they should have fired him. They did. Look at Mitchell Trubisky. He played fine. Okay, 7 touchdowns, 7 interceptions. We'll see what he does moving forward. I liked him heading into this 2017 season. He did about what I expected him to do. We'll see what happens moving forward. And he was my number 1 quarterback out of this 2017 NFL draft, and I'm sticking with that despite the great rookie year of Deshaun Watson. So we'll see what's going to happen. You hired Matt Nagy, from the Kansas City Chiefs, offensive coordinator from the Chiefs, as your new head coach. So we'll see what he can do. I'm encouraged by him, but I'm not completely sold, right? So I would have preferred like a John DeFilippo. Or Matt LaFleur or somebody. But they went with Matt Nagy and we'll see what he can do. Jordan Howard's still good. Tariq Cohen, nice backup at this point. Wide receivers, trash. Look at the defense. Yeah, at this point, the defense, I'm up and down on this Bears defense. Look, they have nice pieces for sure. Eddie Jackson's good. Adrian Amos really played well. Now they had a strong safety next to him. Prince Amukamara is not the long-term answer at cornerback. Bryce Callahan played all right in the slot. Kyle Fuller reclaimed his career, thank God. But I still think you could have a GM that could bring some more talent on this football team. I think they need a little bit more. Hopefully, maybe the coaching staff that comes in could just get the most out of these players, and then the Bears could end up doing something. But that's really what I'm thinking moving forward. So, look at the offseason. 8th overall pick for the Chicago Bears. Gotta take a wide receiver. I don't care which one you like. Take one. If it's Calvin Ridley, fine. James Washington, fine. Christian Kirk, okay. Whoever I deem to be the best one, I can't tell you right now. I haven't evaluated them yet. Right now, I would tell you Calvin Ridley. I could tell you something different in April, but it has to be a wide receiver to me. I understand by the time you go on the clock, the best wide receiver probably won't be the best player on the board. I understand that. I get that. But, man, you got to get this boy some help, dog, and you got to throw money at Jarvis Landry. Now, I want the Tennessee Titans to get Jarvis Landry, so I don't even want to mutter the potential of any other team getting Jarvis Landry. Like, I don't even want to even entertain that thought. I mean, oh my God. But for right now, that has to be the move to me because we got to get some help from Mitchell Trubisky. So those were the 8 worst teams in the NFL, and we're going to stop there, actually. I was going to go 10, but I ended up talking a little longer on each team than I thought I was going to. We went 50 minutes there. I think that's long enough. So next week, we'll do the worst 8 after that, the worst 8 after that, the worst 8 to end. So that's what we're going to do for the next 4 weeks. So that ends that. So with that said, we move on to the Tennessee Titans for a bit because I got to talk about them. I have a lot of Titans fans that are subscribed to this, and they want to hear my thoughts on what the hell we just done. So the Tennessee Titans, they go out and they hire Mike Vrabel as their new head coach. The prototypical Tennessee Titans head coach. I mean, I'm so sick of this, man. This guy screams Tennessee Titans head coach, and that's not a good thing. This white guy that's going to go up there, speak all this conservative football philosophy and ideology. We want a tough football team, blah, blah, blah. And you know what? If you're a good head coach, fine. Or if you're a good coach, fine. I'm not sure if Mike Vrabel's a good coach. Not even a head coach, a good coach. What we have here is an offensive coordinator that had the worst defense in the NFL in 2017. Okay? That's the guy that you hire. And that was his 1 year ever being a defensive coordinator. Okay? That concerns the hell out of me. We also fired Mike Mularkey. I thought, because we thought that Mike Mularkey did not instill strong enough offensive and defensive systems for this football team. That's what I thought. That was a natural answer for me. As for most of you, I think we all agreed on that. And also because we didn't get enough development out of Marcus Mariota. So we hired a guy that's not going to fix that. We just hired this guy because John Robinson wanted this guy. And my theory, now my conspiracy theory, this is kind of a conspiracy at this point, but this is what I'm feeling in my heart. I think John Robinson's trying to really control this football team. I think he wants total control. I think he hired a talking head today. A guy that's not going to question personnel decisions, not going to open his mouth, just going to sit down, do his head coaching job, and go home at 8 p.m. every night. While John Robinson really runs this show. I think that's what happened here. Because this was a farce. of a head coaching search, people. It took them 5 days, okay? They fired Mike Mularkey on Monday. In 5 days, they interviewed 3 candidates. They interviewed Steve Wilkes, a black guy, because they have to by rule, by NFL rule, they have to interview 1 minority candidate. There's your token black guy. And they interviewed Matt LaFleur just so people would say you only interviewed 1 token black guy and the guy you wanted. Now people can say you interviewed 1 token black guy, 1 random guy, and the guy you wanted. John Robinson identified Mike Vrabel from day 1. I don't know why. I know John Robinson was in the New England front office during Mike Vrabel's time playing with the New England Patriots as a linebacker. I guess he was impressed during that time. That makes no sense to me. There are players that are great on the field, that are great in the locker room. That does not mean they're going to be a great damn head coach. I see the same things in Mike Vrabel that I saw in Vance Joseph last year. Sure, he looks like a guy that can be a great leader of men. He's going to come out. He's going to do well, you think. But he had a bad year as a defensive coordinator. He's going to come in. Your defense is probably going to regress. And by the middle of the season, you're going to learn head coaching isn't as easy as being a linebacker coach or a defensive coordinator. You can go from being a great leader of a linebacker room to being a horrible leader of a football team. When you had a guy in Mike Mularkey, who we knew was at least a decent leader of a football team, right? Leading this team wasn't the problem. We had fine issues in terms of discipline and everything. We were fine there. That was not the problem. The problem was our offensive and defensive systems weren't good enough ultimately. And Mike Vrabel is not fixing any of that. That's a problem for me. I have a big problem with that. Now, again, I'm going to say this. I said this in my video. I hope to God he's good. I hope to God he comes in here. He does a great job. It's great. We win a Super Bowl 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We're the best franchise ever. Okay, that's my hope. I hope that he's our Steve Kerr. I hope to God. But his resume does not show that. We could have waited 1 more damn day to talk to John DeFilippo or Jim Schwartz, assuming they lose tomorrow. And I think that they will lose tomorrow. Even if they don't, you could have waited 2 weeks. You could have waited 2 weeks to talk to those guys. So I don't know what the hell we were thinking. This was a farce of a head coaching search. I'm offended that we interviewed a black guy just because we had to. I think that's ridiculous. And I'm also offended that we really didn't care, honestly. This was another bad head coaching search. Like, I actually thought we're going to bring someone different. We don't have any preconceived notions. We're going to go out and hire the best candidate possible, bring a new coach to this football team. Mike Vrabel is going to bring the same junk people watch. It might be a little bit different, a little more energetic, a little more enthusiastic, but it's going to be about the same thing, people. Just look out for that right now. I'm telling you right now. So look out for that. That's the Tennessee Titans. Real quick, the other head coaching hires in the league. I talked about Matt Nagy earlier. I think he's a fine hire for the Chicago Bears. Now, the thing about head coaching hires, I say this all the time, I'll say it again, we just don't know, people. Like, we can't know. Unless if they've coached before, head coached before, we have no idea what they're going to look like when they actually put on the headset. We just have no idea. So, in theory, right, the Bears hire an offensive coordinator from a good offensive system. Okay, that's good in theory. But he could be Ben McAdoo, right? So we just don't know. But for now, it looks to be fun. Okay, fine. Detroit Lions, I actually like Matt Patricia. I think there's a lot of evidence he's going to do well. He's been in the New England system for so long at this point, being their defensive coordinator. Before that, being an assistant for them for years. I think he's been with them since like 2004 or 2005, something like that, in mid-2000s. That's impressive. Okay, he's learned what it's like to be a part of a winning culture. He's going to bring that to Detroit. And I love the fact that they were able to juxtapose Matthew Stafford with the defensive head coach. A lot of people argue, you have this great quarterback, get an offensive head coach. I argue vice versa actually works, more often than not. Because what you have is a situation where the offense is going to be decent enough no matter what. If the defensive guy can come in and make the defense elite, you can have something special. Look at Pete Carroll and Russell Wilson. Look at Bill Belichick and Tom Brady. When you have a Mike McCarthy and Aaron Rodgers, the offense is always great, but the defense has issues. So I argue maybe the better scenario, maybe the best scenario, the best case, you need an offensive, an offensive quarterback, but you need a defensive head coach, and then that combination can be so dangerous because the head coach will always ensure the defense is good enough, and the quarterback, assuming that they're really good already, will be able to produce an output that should put the team over the top more often than not. So I love this hire by the Detroit Lions, but again, even he could be awful, right? He could step in the door, maybe he can't speak, maybe he's nervous, whatever, the players don't like him, maybe he's mean, whatever, and then it's a disaster. But I like it in theory. Giants going with Pat Shurmur. Now, this is a former head coach. Now, he was with the Browns, so there's not much we can say there. We'll see what he can do here. The good thing is, you're going to afford him some time. To me, you're not going to expect to be a playoff team next year, although you could be, again, as I said earlier. It could happen. I'm looking out for it. Don't yell at me out. So I'm looking out for Pat Shurmur, though. I think he's going to do well. Draft a quarterback, second overall, as I said earlier. Let him groom under Pat Shurmur and give him time, right? That's all I can really say about Pat Shurmur. I mean, he's done a great job as the offense coordinator for the Vikings this year. He's been fantastic. He got so much out of Case Keenum, and now the Giants could sign Case Keenum. And I'd be down for, releasing Eli Manning, signing Case Keenum, and drafting a quarterback second overall. I'd be down for that. But also, I think if you draft one second overall, I don't know if you need to do that. I think these quarterbacks are good enough to the point to where you can start them week one. Or, you can go down the Case Keenum road, but as I always tell you, and you see, dude, I'm right on this. If you ever draft a quarterback early, that boy gonna play, okay? Like, it's just gonna happen. You can think you're gonna start Mike Glennon in the case of the Chicago Bears. You can think you're gonna start Tom Savage in the case of the Houston Texans. That boy gonna play. Unless if you're Patrick Mahomes, where that's a playoff team, okay? If it's a playoff team, yeah, you're probably not gonna play in that case. But in most cases, you gonna play, and Josh Rosen, let's say it's Josh Rosen, he gonna play if you sign Case Keenum too. Okay, he gonna play. So those are the head coaching hires that have been. Also one more, Josh McDaniels for the Indianapolis Colts. Let's touch on that for a second. So Colts get Josh McDaniels, and damn it, I mean, y'all piss me off, man. I mean, Jesus, I wanted Josh McDaniels for good reason. I think he's gonna be great. I think it's gonna be absolutely great. And assuming Andrew Luck and him could be healthy together, they're going to be a hell of a duo. But again, I would have preferred defensive, honestly. I think Andrew Luck, when he's healthy, produces such a consistent output to where you want your defense to be fixed. I would have went defensive, honestly, over Josh McDaniels. I would have went Patricia over Daniels in your case. Your offense will be great in the future, but your defense may continue to struggle. So look out for that moving forward. But I think there's a hell of a hire by the Indianapolis Colts right here. Let's move on to the NBA real quick. Just some headlines I want to discuss, and then we'll be out of here. Oh my God. Man, the Cleveland Cavaliers. What is going on with this basketball team? I'm recording this on Saturday, January 20th, 2018. And the Cleveland Cavaliers have lost 148 to 124. Is this an all-star game? I didn't know the all-star game happened this weekend. I know it's winter, but damn, I thought that happens in February. Now, it looked like the damn all-star game, right? You had Paul George, you had Russell Westbrook, you had Carmelo Anthony, you had LeBron, you had Kevin Love, you had Isaiah Thomas, but the problem is Isaiah Thomas ain't nothing near an all-star right now. Isaiah Thomas stinks, people. He stinks. Right now, he is so awful, and we all understand why. He's coming off his injury. He has to get his legs under him. He hasn't gotten his legs under him, and that's a problem. In this game, he actually played decent. He was 8 of 14, 24 points, whatever. But in the previous games, he's been awful. His defense stinks, and this Cavs defense stinks. 148, are you kidding me, dog? This is a damn disaster that's happening in Cleveland. Now, they're going to rectify this to a certain extent, but I'm telling you right now, and as I begin to talk more and more about the NBA, y'all going to realize my stance on this, because I'm going to keep saying this. I got the Celtics beating the Cavs. Y'all are afraid to do it. I'm not. Cavs are going to lose to the Celtics in May, people. I'm calling it right now. They're just too bad defensively, whereas the Celtics are too good. LeBron is going to go beast mode. He's going to score, I'd say, 30-plus points per game in that series, and maybe that's going to be enough, but ultimately, man, this thing had to come to an end in Cleveland, and it's about to come to an end. Because when they lose in the Eastern Conference Final, and LeBron looks around and he wants to go to Houston or something, he gone. And then the Cavs got to restart. They're talking about trying to trade for DeAndre Jordan. No one giving you DeAndre Jordan. No one giving you Anthony Davis. No one going to give you nothing. Okay, no one going to give you nothing if you're not going to give that first-round pick up. And if you give that first-round pick up, you're an idiot. Because LeBron gonna leave. When you lose to the Boston Celtics, I'm calling it right now. And if you don't, we all understand they're going to lose to the Warriors. Warriors haven't beat. Warriors have the Cavs number at this point. People, we understand that. Jesus, they won 118 to 108. Warriors didn't try for the first half from what I was seeing. Second half turned it on, won the game, period. Fourth quarter, LeBron goes out. Warriors, they start running. LeBron cannot leave the game, and ultimately, even LeBron has to leave the game at some point. The Cavs are just so bad defensively, and Isaiah Thomas is not helping. 148. I mean, oh my God. And Paul George scored 36. And LeBron is a worse defender, people. That's a problem. Paul George scoring 36. Guess whose fault that is? I know LeBron doesn't guard him on every play. He guards him on enough plays. That's a problem. LeBron isn't a good defender anymore. Isaiah Thomas just stinks. J.R. Smith can't defend trash. He can't defend me, I think. I think I'd score at least a 1 point. Give me a basket on J.R. Smith. Give me 10 attempts. I'm gonna score a basket on him. Let's see what happens. Get me on the basketball court. Let's see what happens. So there's a problem right now in Cleveland. And everyone's afraid to do it. Everyone's just assuming they're going to beat the Celtics. But I'm saying no. I'm saying they'll beat the Raptors in 6 or 7. And I think that's going to be a series. Okay, and I think they're going to lose to the Celtics because the Celtics people are just good. They're just good. They're legitimately good. Now they have the stars to go head-to-head with the Cavs. Last year, all they had was Isaiah Thomas, who was not the real star people thought he was. Like, he's good. I don't want to discount him, but obviously he's not going to beat the Cleveland Cavaliers. Now the Celtics have a Kyrie Irving. Now they have a Jason Tatum who's able to score consistently. Now they have an improved Jaylen Brown. I have the Celtics over the Cavs people, and then ultimately the Warriors over the Celtics. So, last thing on the NBA, we have some trade rumors here. Other than that Anthony Davis junk, okay, that Deion Jordan crap, that Lou Williams facade. We have the Hornets trying to trade Kemba Walker, right? Apparently they're open to trading point guard Kemba Walker. And look, the Hornets are a disaster. Michael Jordan is officially a disgrace as a general manager. And they were actually on the up, right? I remember, I want to say it was 2013 or 14. They won like 48 games. They were the 4th or 5th seed in the East. And I'm thinking things are looking up for the Hornets. Kemba Walker has improved. Everything's looking good for the Charlotte Hornets. And then they get Al Jefferson in, and he stinks. You know, we thought he was going to do something, but he was absolutely awful. He stunk up the building. It was awful, right? So that was a problem. And then this year, I'm thinking they got Dwight Howard, double-double, you know, monster. He's going to help rectify the ship. And right now, they're out of the playoffs, and they could still get hot and get in. Nicholas Batum is back, and that's good. But if you trade Kemba Walker, I hope you ready, boy, because you're done. Like, you're going to be at the bottom of the barrel for years to come, and I don't know if anyone's coming to help you. Now, there'll be some draft picks that would come, but the problem is you just invested money in Dwight Howard. I mean, you just signed Dwight Howard. You have Nicholas Batum is still signed for a number of years left. You drafted Malik Monk. Are we even like the Hornets can't draft? Can we also discuss that they can't draft? They can't draft well. I actually like the Malik Monk pick. I'm not gonna lie, but he's not playing well, right? See, he's shooting awful right now, and that's his deal. If he can't shoot, he's not gonna do anything in this league. Like, that's his thing. Look at the Charlotte Hornets. Who is leading this team in points right now? Kemba Walker. Who's leading them in assists? Kemba Walker. Leading them in steals? Kemba Walker. Okay, 3 out of 5 categories. Kemba. He's been the only saving grace for this basketball team for the past, I don't know how many years, 5+ years, and they're going to move on from this guy for what? I just don't understand it. And if he wants the Hornets to go to the bottom of the barrel in the Eastern Conference, then go ahead and trade him. Because you're going to get there. You're going to end up being worse than the Atlanta Hawks. I'll tell you of that. I'll tell you that right now. But if you really want it, okay, if you really wanted to do that, I don't understand why you're traded for Dwight Howard. Okay, you still have one more huge year of him. So are you going to tank with that? I mean, I don't get it. If they're trying to do a franchise reset, that's fine. But first of all, learn how to draft, because Kemba Walker is the best draft pick you've had. I'd say, maybe ever, but, definitely in the past, like 10 years at least, right? Frank Kaminsky, he can play, but he's not really making that much of an impact. Michael Kidd-Gilchrist, he's not good enough to me. Offensively, he's just not good enough. He's just not. Cody Zeller, dear God, get him out of my face. It's just been a problem in Charlotte for a number of years now. It's going to get worse if they get rid of Kemba Walker. You got to keep Kemba Walker to me. You got to make improvements elsewhere. Learn how to actually draft for a second. Okay, you can see improvement there. I'm going to hold off on Malik Monk. Okay, I think he can improve. He's just a little small. He needs to put on some weight. He's not that tall, so he has to get used to shooting at the NBA level. I'll give him time. For now, though, do not trade Kemba Walker, or you're going to go to the bottom of the barrel to me. So there you go. That is the MJ Take podcast for January 20th, 2018. You may be seeing this on Sunday, January 21st, 2018. But I will be back at least every weekend, right? Usually Saturdays. It could be Sunday, but every weekend, every week, patreon.com/SFE. The MJ Take podcast will be up. It will be available. And by the way, do not forget to send questions, right? You can comment on this Patreon post, any questions you have for me in my next podcast, and I will answer every question. There won't be many of them, so I'll be able to get to every question. And also, do not forget to check out the Sports Fan Entertainment website, sportsfanentertainment.com. Check us out on Twitter, sportsfan_ENT. Check us out on Facebook, facebook.com/sportsfanentertainment. And I thought there was something else I wanted to say. What was it? I don't remember. It was something important too. But at this point, it doesn't really matter. So send your questions in. I'll answer them next podcast. And until next time, this has been MJ of Sports Fan Entertainment. Y'all have a good day.